Ali. The local residents claimed that the Pangboche monastery kept a yeti skull. During this journey, they went to this monastery and took a hair sample from the alleged yeti skull. In total, 7 expeditions encountered similar footprints in the year 1937, including 2 expeditions that claim to have seen the yeti. Stories about the yeti actually date back thousands of years. Some of them date back to the pre-Buddhist era and have been passed down through generations. One of the reasons for forming these organizations was that the governments of Nepal and the United States believed that the yeti might be real. After returning to America, Dom Slick said that there might be 3 types of yeti, 1 supernatural and 2 real. He believed that no such creature existed. Then, on an evening in 1986, something shook his belief. In 2008 in Arunachal Pradesh, at an altitude of 12,000 feet, a military camp and a road for the Indian Army were being constructed. One of the workers was there and went to the local market. After buying what he needed, he started heading back to the military camp before nightfall. Many hours passed, but he did not reach the military camp. There was no trace of him all night. The next day, a local man passed by the same road with his horse. The missing worker was noticed beside the road. He was sitting in a strange way. The local thought the worker might be drunk. He called out to the worker, but he did not respond. When he finally approached him, he noticed that the worker's neck was broken and he was not breathing. He was dead. His phone and money were lying on the ground near him. This could not have been a robbery or looting, because his valuable belongings were left there. If it had been looting, they would not have left them behind. It didn't seem that his neck was broken due to an accident. If there had been an accident, his body would have been lying on the ground, but his body was supported in a strange way. There were no other marks on his body except for the broken neck. Later, when the doctors saw the body, they said that the damage to the neck could not be easily caused by a human because it requires great force. It could not have been caused by a wild animal because there were no claw marks on the body. There were no wounds or bleeding, just the broken neck that led to his death. The local residents claimed that the police found a hair on the body. This hair was examined, and it was found that it did not belong to a human or an animal. The police also found a footprint, which led the local residents to say it was a yeti footprint. The local residents claimed that the place where the road was being built was frequented by the yeti. They believed that the worker was killed by the yeti. 11 years after this incident, on the 29th of April 2019, the Indian Army tweeted from their account. For the first time, an Indian Army expedition team claimed to have seen footprints of the legendary creature, the yeti. These footprints were 32 inches long and 15 inches wide. On the 9th of April 2019, these footprints were seen near the Makalu base camp in Nepal. Before that, the yeti had only been seen in the Makalu Barun National Park. The Indian Army said the evidence was photographed and handed over to specialized experts for scientific evaluation. Is it real? You must have come across mentions of the yeti on social media, but is there scientific evidence of the yeti's existence? Is it really a mysterious creature, or is it just an animal that is not understood? Friends, let's uncover the truth behind this mysterious yeti in this video. The large, hairy monster was spotted walking across the mountains of Asia from China to the Himalayas. The most famous story about the yeti dates back to 1951. British climber Eric Shipton and surgeon Michael Ward were searching for an alternative route to climb Mount Everest. They noticed footprints in the snow on the Minglong Glacier. They were 13 inches long and 8 inches wide. They looked similar to human feet, but they were much larger. Eric didn't have any equipment to measure the footprint, so he placed his axe next to it and took these photos. The photos became so famous that they were published in newspapers and magazines all over the world. People all over the world became fascinated by it and considered it strong evidence that the Yeti is real. After these photos were published, a race began. People from all over the world came from different countries to the Himalayas searching for the Yeti, hoping to be the first to discover it. Their search took them to some of the most beautiful natural areas in the world, to breathtaking distances of natural beauty. But what does the Yeti look like? Those who claim to have seen the Yeti have some common features in their descriptions. According to them, it is a creature similar to large apes and is bigger than humans. It has long arms and a strong chest and abdomen. They claim it is 7 to 8 feet tall and weighs about 90 to 180 kilograms. The people of Bhutan told the BBC that except for its face, the rest of its body is covered with long reddish-brown or black-grey fur, and it cannot bend its body. It cannot look back. It walks upright on its legs. In the forest, it uses its hands and legs to swing from tree to tree. According to them, he carries a large stone in his hand and uses it as a weapon. The people of Bhutan, who believe in the existence of the Yeti, say that the Yeti is usually seen alone or in pairs, and rarely seen in groups. They communicate with each other by whistling and emit a foul odor. Sometimes they may smile or make strange sounds, seen as harbingers of bad times and death. According to the stories, the Yeti exists in the Himalayas in India, Bhutan, Nepal, and Tibet. Especially in Nepal and Tibet, it lives in the high snowy areas. And now, it is interesting to see the mention of the Yeti even in ancient myths dating back 800 years, and even in the folklore of the Tibetan Sherpa group. In fact, the word Yeti derives from the Tibetan language yete, meaning a bear that lives on the slopes, a bear living among the rocks. A 12th century Tibetan religious text, Manikabum, talks about the relationship between humans and the Yeti, and also mentions a legendary story. According to this story, there was a bodhisattva monkey sent by the deity to meditate in Tibet. While he was meditating, he was seen by a rock demoness, Sinemo, who was an embodiment of a Buddhist deity. The demoness told him that if he did not marry her, she would marry a demon and give birth to many monsters that would eventually destroy everything. The monkey married the demoness, and they had 6 children, half monkey and half human. Over generations, their descendants continued to evolve, and eventually humans were born. But those from previous generations were not entirely human, and one of these generations was the generation of the Yeti. According to this story, the ancestors of the Yeti and humans are the same, but the Yeti could not fully evolve into a human. Yeti stories date back thousands of years, some even to the pre-Buddhist era. In the Himalayas, some communities and religions worship this icy creature. In the year 1978, many scientists jointly published a book on Himalayan anthropology about the history of the Himalayas. According to this book, parts of the Yeti continued to be used in Tibetan religious and magical rituals. This book mentions several interesting historical facts. For example, centuries ago, stories of the Yeti were so popular that when Alexander the Great invaded parts of India in 326 BC, he requested to see a Yeti, but the locals refused to let him see it, saying that the Yeti could only survive in the high mountains, so it could not be brought to the lowlands. In the modern era, the first sighting of a creature like the Yeti was in the year 1832. The British naturalist Brian Hodgson mentioned in his article in the Journal of the Asiatic Society of Bengal that he encountered a massive non-human creature covered in long black fur from head to toe, but it fled as soon as it was discovered. In his article, he called it an orangutan. The orangutan is a real ape that exists today, but it is not found in India. It is a native animal in Indonesia and Malaysia. Then, in the year 1889, when the British Army Doctor Major went to the Himalayan glaciers for hunting, he saw some footprints there. These tracks were heading upwards towards the glacier and disappeared at the summit. They seemed to belong to human-like species, like apes or humans. Charles Howard Berry and his team, an English statesman newspaper, reported that they saw some large footprints. The local guides told them that the footprints were of Mitokangmi. This word means snow bear man, but the journalist mistranslated the word Mito. Instead of snow bear man, he translated it to dirty. Later, when this article was published, dirty was changed to abominable. Thus the term abominable snowman was coined and is still used as a synonym for the word yeti. By the year 1937, there were repeated discoveries related to the yeti. Explorer H.W. Tillman saw yeti footprints on the Zemu Glacier. In this year, at an altitude of 19,000 feet on the Zemu Glacier, British Army officer John Hunt also saw yeti footprints. In the year 1937, in total, 7 expeditions encountered such footprints. 2 of these expeditions claimed to have seen the yeti. In their reports, local hunters, guides, and Sherpas alleged that Tibetan monasteries possessed the hands and skull of the yeti. This piqued the interest of Westerners, but in the 1930s, no Western foreigner was allowed to enter Nepal. Only some British military and diplomatic officials were allowed limited entry. This was because the ruling family in Nepal at the time, the Rana family, did not want to see Western influence in Nepal. But in the year 1951, the policy in Nepal changed. After that, foreigners could visit easily. And so we reached this famous encounter of Eric Shipton in the year 1951, where he only took a picture of the Yeti's footprints, and the Yeti once again became a popular topic worldwide. After this picture alone, many people from all over the world went to Nepal to search for the Yeti. In the year 1953, the British newspaper Daily Mail sent its expedition. It included many journalists and mountaineers. This expedition cost $1,350,000 in today's value. The locals claimed that the Pangbosh monastery was keeping a Yeti skull. During this trip, they went to this monastery and took a hair sample from the Yeti skull. When it was sent for analysis, experts claimed it did not belong to a human or an animal, nor was it hair. The tests concluded that the hair on the Yeti's scalp does not belong to an unknown type of cryptid. Then the famous American oilman and millionaire Tom Slick organized several expeditions to search for the Yeti in the years 1957, 1958, and 1959. He searched for the Yeti in the valleys of eastern Nepal, including the Arun Valley. On the first expedition, he encountered 3 Yeti footprints and strands of hair. He went to 4 monasteries and studied 2 skulls and mummified hands. It was said they belonged to the Yeti. His search continued for several months. After returning to America, Tom Slick said there might be 3 types of Yeti, one supernatural and the other 2 real. He said one of the real Yetis matches the description based on Eric Shipton's photo. Tom Slick said he was trying to determine the relationship between the 3 types of Yeti. But before he could present his findings to the world, he died in a plane crash. The mystery died with him. This was the peak of the buzz about the Yeti. Several films were produced about the Yeti, such as The Snow Creature in 1954. The Abominable Snowman in the year 1957. Aside from that, during the years 1958 and 1959 in the adventures of Tintin comics, Tintin encountered the Yeti and Tintin in Tibet. This illustrated book remains popular because of these films, footprints, and eyewitness accounts. The legend of the Yeti continued to grow and expand. More and more people wanted to go search for the Yeti. As a result of this obsession, in the year 1959, the governments of the United States and Nepal united to issue some regulations. There were 3 main points. First, the government of Nepal wanted to make some money from this matter. They imposed a license fee of 5,000 Indian rupees to obtain a permit to search for the Yeti. Secondly, hunting the Yeti was prohibited. Killing it in self-defense was allowed, but actively hunting it was not permitted. The government of Nepal allowed the capture of the yeti alive, but any captured yeti had to be handed over to the government of Nepal. Thirdly, all reports related to the existence of the yeti were to be submitted to the government of Nepal first, and obtaining government permission was mandatory before submitting them to the press. Strict regulations, indeed. But the most surprising thing is that the governments of Nepal were not actually sure whether the yeti existed or not. One of the reasons for issuing these regulations is that the governments of Nepal and the United States believed that the yeti might be real. Even after these government regulations were issued, many people went to Nepal and conducted numerous expeditions. But there were 3 explorers worth mentioning. These men tried hard to discover the truth about the yeti. The first was the Irish-American explorer Peter Byrne. In his search for the yeti, he participated in 5 expeditions and spent a total of 38 months in the Himalayas. During these expeditions, he also went to the Pangboche Buddhist monastery, located at an altitude of 13,000 feet, which is claimed to hold remains of a yeti hand and skull. For research purposes, he requested the yeti hand from the lamas at the monastery, but his request was denied. It was said that doing so would bring bad luck to the monastery. Peter tried hard to persuade the lamas. In exchange for a donation, he finally obtained a finger from the remains of the yeti's hand. He brought this finger to India, and with the help of his friend, actor James Stewart, smuggled it to London. James Stewart's wife, Gloria, hid this finger in her lingerie bag and carried it to London. In London, Professor William Osman Hill analyzed this finger and found that it was not a yeti finger, but a human finger. The second explorer was the legendary Italian climber Reinhold Messner, considered the greatest living mountain climber in the world before the year 1986. In his books, Messner denied the existence of the yeti, describing it as nonsense. He did not believe in the existence of such a creature. But on an evening in 1986, something happened that changed his belief. He was following an ancient Tibetan path used by the Sherpas and got lost. There, he encountered a large, dark creature he saw standing upright, running faster than humans, and jumping from tree to tree. Messner says that at one point he was only 10 steps away from it. He stood there motionless, before suddenly disappearing, and he was about 7 feet tall. After this encounter, Messner became obsessed with the yeti, whose existence he had previously denied. He spent 12 years searching for it, and what was the result? He said, "There is no yeti. There are no abominable snowmen resembling humans living in the mountains." He said the yeti is nothing but a Himalayan brown bear. Before talking more about this, let's talk about the third explorer, Daniel C. Taylor. This American man wrote a book titled Yeti, The Ecology of a Mystery. He also spent many years of his life searching for the yeti. He focused particularly on the Barun Valley in Nepal. This valley contains a dense forest and receives a lot of rain. This forest is so dense that very few people have entered it. The king of Nepal advised him that if he wanted to find the yeti, he should search in this forest. When he got there, he saw fresh footprints. These tracks convinced him that he had found the yeti, but unfortunately, they were not yeti tracks. They belonged to a tree bear. During his search, he found that these footprints also contained nail marks. Hominids do not have such nails, so he concluded that these tracks must belong to an animal. To find out which animal it was, he started searching for nests there. He found a tuft of hair. This hair belonged to a special type of bear known as rukbalu in Nepali, and tree bear in English. Explanation of this famous picture taken by Rick Shipton in the year 1951. He said that while walking, these bears always place their hind legs on the tracks of the front legs. This makes it seem as if the animal that left these tracks was walking on 2 legs instead of 4. So when the front legs leave marks on the ground, they also leave nail marks. And when the hind legs step on these marks, there are no nail marks because the snow or mud presses enough to erase the nail marks. And often, when the hind feet overlap with the front feet, the overlap is not complete, making the combined tracks appear larger, so these tracks can look about 12 inches long. He said that if you look carefully at the pictures of the yeti footprints, you will notice the nail marks left by the hind feet in the middle of the picture. So, this picture of the yeti footprints we have here is actually a combination of the front and back footprints of a bear. Daniel Taylor said that the anatomy of the bear explains these footprints much better. Young bears often press their paws while walking, especially when climbing trees in search of food. This leaves a mark resembling a thumb in the snow, making it look like a human footprint. He said that when he asked the Royal Geographical Society for the photo Eric Shipton took of the yeti footprints, they sent him 2 photos. In the second picture, it is very clear that these are bear tracks, but the second picture did not spread. Only the first picture was published in newspapers and discussed by the media. In the year 1939, under the sponsorship of the German Nazi Party for a secret mission to Tibet, zoologist Ernst Schaefer concluded that the yeti does not exist. When the locals told him that the yeti lived in the mountains, he climbed the mountain with his rifle and shot it. According to Ernst Schaefer, the creature that the locals assumed was a yeti was actually a Tibetan bear. In the year 1992, before his death, he wrote a letter to Reinhold to inform him of that. The first person to climb Mount Everest, Edmund Hillary, spent months searching for the yeti and finally reached the same conclusion. The yeti does not actually exist. He said that the yeti is just a myth born from people's folklore. There were some recent research studies about the yeti, such as this study from the year 2014 at the University of Oxford. Geneticist Brian Sykes tested the DNA of more than 30 hair samples from different regions in the Himalayas. All claimed to be from the yeti. Except for 2, all other samples belonged to animals like horses or bears. The 2 remaining samples did not exactly match any known species. They might be from a type of animal not yet discovered. But when the data was re-examined by other scientists, they found that Brian made a mistake in analyzing these 2 samples. These samples also belonged to a known species, a rare subspecies of the Himalayan brown bear. There was another study in the year 2017 at a university in New York. They conducted DNA analysis on more than 9 alleged samples of the yeti, not just hair, but they also analyzed bones and teeth. They found that 8 samples were either from Asian black bears, Himalayan brown bears, or Tibetan brown bears, and 1 sample was from a dog. But what about the story from the beginning of this video, the murder in Arunachal Pradesh? After hearing this story, our journalists from BBC Radio, Andrew Benfield and Richard Horsey, went there and tried to find out if this worker was really killed by a yeti. When they looked at the initial police report, they found that it stated the police did not know how the worker died, so it refers to a body that was found. It says the body was identified as a man who worked as a laborer. He says the cause of death is unknown. But this report did not mention the yeti or its footprints. No mention of the yeti. The doctor who tested the hair strand claimed it was not from a human or an animal. Where the hair was tested, it was discovered that it was not a strand of hair. It was actually from a tree. So we took it and sent it for investigation, but they said it was not from any biological type. It is not hair, so it might be part of a plant or a leaf or something like that, but not hair. People suspected that the yeti was the one who killed the worker. And when this rumor spread, people started adding more to the rumors. Today, there is no longer a mystery. We no longer hear about yeti sightings anymore. Think about it. We live in the age of smartphones. During the past 10 to 15 years, almost everyone has a smartphone. Everyone carries a camera. Many people live in Tibet, Nepal, and the Himalayas. If there were really something like the Yeti, we would have at least one picture. People's belief in supernatural and mythical creatures like the Yeti is often shaped by society and culture. People believe in these things because they have heard such stories since childhood. These stories are repeated by the people around them because of their belief in them since childhood, and social pressure makes it difficult for them to reject them as they grow up. Another reason for these mysteries is fascination. In some way, the Yeti represents the idea of escaping modern society, living with nature, and true liberation in today's dull, institutional, consumerist world. Such stories help shape our desire, curiosity, and fascination because there are better things in our real world. The Himalayas, where people might still search for the Yeti, are home to snow leopards. Today, only about 4,000 snow leopards remain, and they are endangered due to climate change. We have not yet exhausted the possibilities offered by our world. Among all the species currently on Earth, scientists have only been able to document 10 to 20% of them. Even now, many new species of plants and animals are discovered each year. In the year 2020, in the dense forests of Myanmar, scientists discovered a new species of monkey, the Popa langur. Look at the picture. It looks like it's wearing glasses. This species has existed for 1 million years, but we only discovered it 4 years ago. Their total number is less than 200. It was declared critically endangered when discovered last year, in the year 2023. On the second highest peak in Angola, scientists discovered a new type of legless lizard. These lizards are called skinks because they look like snakes. They can move their eyelids unlike snakes. In the year 2024, in the midnight zone of the ocean at a depth of 3,300 to 13,000 feet below the surface, the area where sunlight does not reach, scientists discovered this new mysterious glowing mollusk creature. Its body is transparent and can become invisible in water, but its organs are visible, and it can glow like a lamp at will. The animal that can be called closest to the Yeti was this Gigantopithecus. This animal, which is 10 feet tall, looks exactly as the Yeti is described. It was about 10 feet tall. It was an ape. Scientists say it lived from 2 million years ago to 200,000 years ago. It must have weighed about 200 to 300 kilograms. Its body was covered with thick fur. It might have walked on 2 legs, and look at its size compared to humans. Since its fossils were found near the Himalayas, could it be that humans who lived there 200,000 years ago saw this animal, interacted with it, and passed down stories of this animal from generation to generation? And yet is the stories that were later modified to become the popular tale of the Yeti on Tibet. What do you think, friends? Let me know in the comments below. Finally, I would like to share this quote with you. We always strive for what we cannot have. In doing so, we neglect the treasures we already possess. It is human nature to chase after things they do not own. But when we do that, we tend to forget the treasures we already have. So instead of stories about the Yeti, we need to focus on the stories of those species we have around us. Worry about them, protect them, ensure we don't lose them. If you liked this video, you will also like this one. We talk about the greatest survival story in human history,